today's clip, I'm going to review, unbox and swatch these budget coloured pencils, Crayola Colours of the World. At the end, I will show you how you can blend the pencils, and there is also a free resource to help you test the pencils. So let's get on with the clip. So before we get started, let's look at the packaging of the Colours of the World box by Crayola. It's your very recognisable Crayola brand with the yellow background and the green lettering. I like that on the side we have a swatch of all the colours because that made it easy for me to organise all of the colours at the beginning, and it's very easy to identify those groups. So that was a really nice touch on the side of the box. So I'm now going to look at the colours, and they were very easy to get out of the box. And one thing I did notice was that the pencils themselves were really well made. We're not going to expect anything of the standard of Faber-Castell or Caran d'Ache Luminance, but for this budget brand, they are well made, they're really well labelled, so far so good. Now what I decided to do with the pencils was to put them into 3 groups by colour temperature, and that is rose, almond and golden. Now when I organised them I could have gone from light to dark, but for me that wouldn't have made sense. I'd rather put them in their colour groups. So the first thing that I did was to organise them into their groups, and then what I did was I made a colour swatch chart because I wanted to test the pencils out. If you would like to download this free colour sheet, then click on the description below and then you can colour along with me whilst I am filling out this swatch chart. Hopefully by now, if you have the pencils, you've had the opportunity to download this swatch chart if that's what you want to do. If not, it's perfectly easy to make one of your own. So now I am starting to sketch with the pencils and layer them up. So I start by shading in one direction, then going back one in the other direction because I want them to blend as well as possible. And what I'm trying to achieve is a graduated tone because I just want to see how they layer up and what kind of tone I can achieve across the swatch area. For information on the products used in today's clip, please click on the description below where you'll find links to all of the products that I have used in this clip. Whilst working with these pencils and getting a feel for them as I was working along, I was pleasantly surprised with the layering texture. They weren't as good as Faber-Castell, obviously, because Faber-Castell is in a league of its own, but it had the same texture. And I found that the more that I was working with them, the more I was getting an idea of what the capabilities would be like and how I was going to approach working with them when I started creating a portrait sample, which is what I'm going to be looking at after the sample sheet. So I just carried on layering them up and thinking about how many layers I would work with and what the kind of colours would work well with the photograph that I have selected. And the kind of thing that I was thinking about is I would layer the darker colours underneath, but I'm thinking of the possibilities for the future and how I can use these pencils in the future, because what's interesting me is the range of skin tones and how I could use these with people that I know that struggle with mixing skin tones, because there's such a wide variety here, and I feel that these are really going to help people that struggle with drawing with skin tones. I like the range of skin tones here, but a lot of people that I have seen reviewing these are thinking about them with, oh, you can select your skin tone. And that may be how some people are going to use these. People use resources in different ways, but I am looking at them in a way to layer and different tones, and with the ranges of values and colours, I can see really good possibilities here, and I'm really excited to start using them. So as I just mentioned, I would like to now start building up some skin tones, and rather than just swatching out and shading different skin tones on a flat surface, I want to build these skin tones up and have a look and test them out and try and make them appear 3D on a surface. So I've got a reference image, I've done a quick sketch. I'm not going to do the whole portrait, I'm just going to sketch them on the nose and around the lips. I'm also going to use some additional Crayola pencils, so it was important to me that I only used Crayola. It would be very easy for me to just go and start grabbing the odd Prisma, Faber-Castell, etc, but I'm going to be using just Crayola pencils, and I think I used 4 or 5 different ones. So just to talk briefly about how these pencils were to work with, I was so pleasantly surprised with these. I found the layering of them really easy. As I said, I approached them in a similar way to how I would layer with Faber-Castell, because as I was working through the swatching, I sensed they had that kind of feel to them. So I just layered them in a similar way as I would with the Faber-Castell. I started with the dark underneath, and then I just gradually started adding those lighter tones above. I started with using pretty much the almond tones and some of the rose tones, as you can see around the nose area. So I kind of had a look at the swatch chart. The swatch chart was really useful in helping me put those groups together, looking at my reference image and making a decision as to which of the groups I was going to choose. So enjoy watching the rest of the clip until we get to the blending. So here you can see I'm starting to bring additional pencils in from the basic Crayola set. So as I mentioned earlier, I've brought in black because I wanted this for the inside of the lip and the nostril area. I used pale blue for the teeth because I needed to give it a little bit of a sort of shadow but not too dark. I'm using the skin tone colours for the undertones of the lips, and then I will add a red on top because I want to give them a bit of a lift. So just a few additional colours outside of those skin tone blends. As I mentioned earlier, I was so impressed with these pencils and they far exceeded my expectations. And initially I wasn't going to blend them out with the Zest-It solvent, but I got it out to work on another piece of work, and I thought, oh, I wonder if it would work on these Crayola pencils. So I just tried a little bit on one of the swatch colours, the darker one, and it worked really well. So I thought I'm going to try it on the skin tone to see if it works. And yet again, I've tried it. It looks incredible. I'm so impressed with these pencils. I couldn't recommend them enough. I'm going to give them a 5 out of 5, and the reason I'm going to give them a 5 out of 5 is because the colour selection is great, they layer really well, they blend really well, and they're amazing value for money. So you couldn't want for more. So 5 out of 5. If you would like to improve your colour pencil skills further, then click on the colour pencil playlist below. If you haven't already, don't forget to download the free colour swatch chart and make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future content.